Спасибо всем тем, кто пришел.
Давай, мне полчаса больше. So thank you for coming. And yesterday our voices got slightly rough because we were talking, and so forgive our vocal cords not being in the perfect condition today after yesterday. So what's there to discuss? The trends that we have been observing over the last couple of years, and so of those who protect information, and we help them, and very often we feel the trends of attackers. And unfortunately, in our area, virtually there is no statistics, because usually people do not elucidate the incidents very much, and the statistics is quite crippled, you know. And for the last 5 years, we have been publishing our analytics on the basis of our research. So, studying the incidents, penetration tests, and studying DBs and vulnerabilities, we keep doing it, and then provide you the cumulative analytics. So the results we are going to show you, you should take kind of with a grain of salt. You know, they're dramatic, but we're not looking especially for the vulnerabilities. These are the adverse effect of our activity. So the situation might be much more dramatic if we were specifically looking for them. So let us tell you about our research. The author is not Boris, as the agenda claims, but it's a big team of researchers. And we shall try to make it a business section and try to talk business-wise about the issues that we have been observing. So let's proceed. I guess we skipped the Mark Twain quotation. Okay, after the tests we made, we found critical vulnerabilities everywhere. And it was happening in each and every industry. So if you say that you buy piles of hardware and make it blink and protect your infrastructure, that would be wrong. Speaking about the perpetrators, virtually they can always get into your infrastructure, confirmed by our tests and our incidents investigation experience in big infrastructures. With this simple reason, once we take a glass house and try to protect it from the children, and just take something simple, and it would be difficult to catch everyone who will try to attack it from all sides. So we see the trend. For instance, we have a virus, antivirus. We have no viruses. We have network attacks, firewalls. So it means the network is okay. And we believe that infrastructure is potentially compromised, and we need to cut the timing of the hacker's visit, or identify the unwanted activities. So you can hack everything. So the question is only when you find out about it. So this slide is showing you the picture of the reasons of the vulnerabilities in the systems. And on the right, we see the growth or decline to previous years. So the types of vulnerabilities that we came across. You should never forget that all security starts with a person and very often ends exactly there. And for instance, weak passwords is the most frequent issue. And the previous slides also mentioned lack of patches. So once you close the vulnerability, but it's still there and can be used. And year on year, the issues are snowballing. So last year, holes remain this year, and there is no breakthrough. Or in the number of attacks or the quality of attacks, you cannot invent a super firewall or super antivirus. At least it did not happen last year. In my view, I was surprised that the discrepancy between the perception of system owner and the hacker, so our customers, virtually all of them, do not believe an external perimeter is an issue. Everyone is sure that they have a beautiful network firewall which is set up and presents no issues. And it is so different from real life, from reality, that it was absolutely outstanding, amazing. If you look at those vulnerabilities, this is chaos, you know, forgotten website, management systems, unpaid Windows machines that keep running in the web. It's not even vulnerabilities, it's chaos in the heads of the people. This is the main issue. People do not even feel it as an issue. Among those who protect IT system, there is a paradigm that the external perimeter had been protected long ago, and now we're taking it to a new level, but it's absolutely wrong. So a hacker doesn't have even to be smart or savvy to come inside, to overcome the external perimeter. That's the trend. I believe the internal system develop faster than they get protected. So, and another general comment is that the main security issues start because people who look at the system immediately see the cracks. And so the problem is seen only when it's hacked. So, and the resource owner tend to forget that it becomes obvious after the incident. So they rarely take preventive measures. So we broke our presentation into 4 main parts about critical infrastructures. The first part is about the telco operators. So Dmitry is going to share with us about the cell operators. So where's the root cause of the issue? We are all to blame for the volumes. So last year, Igor Ashmanov had a very interesting presentation about social networks and the trend that we are living in the information society. And I believe it needs a very good, solid infrastructure. And very often, some transportation networks are the basis of infrastructure. And it's like a pipe where the data flows. And the users, through broadband or mobile internet, never think about the security provided by the operator. And part of our activities through audit or additional research shows that the operator infrastructure is the most vulnerable part. So this slide showing the information on equipment that's available from the web. We wanted to see how safe is to use mobile internet. Usually, people are interested in some radio interception at an interface level, so the technologies are quite protected there. Let's look at the other side. We saw that the trunk network. And we saw that there are components like GSM gates is a node which is between the operator and internet. And we started trying to see such nodes in the internet, such hub, and collected information is available and shows that so many devices are available through common protocols and interfaces. This is a vulnerability number one. So number two is word passwords. Password made of words. So just with Shodan, we are looking, for instance, GGSM, and find a huge number of available devices identified by banners and protocols, and then we see that they have words as passwords, simple things like that. And what's so bad about it? Because they allow you to penetrate easily inside the operator's network. So protocols like DTP are available to transfer the user's data. So, and what can the hacker get there? So very low entrance threshold. So any schoolboy can do it. I don't know how many of them are honeypots by operators, but I guess some devices are there just because of negligence or by erroneous decision, so wrong settings, whatever. And the device is available, is open, and the hacker can get inside and then get access to any unprotected data because they're not encrypted, they're just going like open text. So interception opportunities are endless, and attacks like blocking access of mobile users. So this is all crap compared to the confidentiality loss and users' data leaks. What else? SIM cards. SIM card is a thing that's difficult, you know. It's only the manufacturer who can spoil it. Actually, there is not much security in it. The issue is that a SIM card is a smart device, which is a computer with OS, file system, and applications. And for you to understand, SIM card would not be set up once, but the operator keeps communicating with it through different protocols and sending binary SMS to your SIM card. So he will assign the DNS server SMS center. So through such binary SMS, any user can, for instance, send an SMS to any other user, just knowing the phone number. If the SIM card accepts such SMS, you can try to replace the DNS server and send all data through the hacker servers and get the user's info. And besides, there are so many vulnerable applications. Approximately 20% of SIM card carry applications that are vulnerable. They do not have the proper signature, which is another open door for the hacker, up to, you know, installing a new Java application that will serve as a backdoor, or in a simplest case, getting access to the file system. You can get parameters like temporary identifier and things, and the encryption key. So once you get this information, you can always clone a SIM card of any user and then you know, he can have all the capacities of a legitimate user. So the cost of equipment, 10,000, is the money that would be spent to buy hardware to get the keys. So we made even triple desk keys, and it can be easily done if you build $10,000 worth and a week of your time, and then you can copy SIM cards and do everything on behalf of that user. So what you can use is SMS banking services. Once the perpetrator is not greedy and steal everything, steal much money that require confirmation, but just, you know, just steal 2,000-4,000 rubles, he can, you know, keep pinching that SMS bank, and then all the SMS will come back to the cloned cell phone. So that's a perfect way to monetize this vulnerability. Another interesting research that we made is 3G, 4G modems vulnerabilities. We saw another trend. Most of the modems all are little computers that work on some Android or Linux, and you see, we get this matryoshka SIM card, a modem, a computer, so you insert a computer in the computer in the computer. So, as for USB modems, you know, there are so many ways to hack it and unlock it, for instance, that can and use the SIM card of another operator. So when you do it, the manufacturers tried to tune differently, and the first thing they did is to close ports, management ports. So they tried to take out this functionality from some console management methods and just make a port that would enable a user to set up and see his balance and everything. But the vendor created all the vulnerabilities that are intrinsic for web, up to code executions. So as soon as it happened, as web vulnerabilities are very popular, the perpetrators can now identify a modem collecting information for this specific model and set up, do basic setup, change DNS server for further data interception, and up to SMS manipulation through changing the SMS sender number, and through SMS you can change and send the password for the self-service portal. After that, the hacker can just manage, so control the finances of the user. And as additional vulnerability, you can always upgrade this modem, and once you upgrade to the middleware, well, USB devices physically connected to computer, whatever, there are flash drives that can act as CD-ROMs, and modern modems have a CD-ROM part to install software, SD card that can read as a separate extension, and you can add a driver that will connect to the keyboard. So as if you added another keyboard to your computer, and you can do it remotely. You don't even have to give that physically. You can just go to the website with a proper exploit this website will send a command, and then you will use this additional keyboard to send commands and control the local machine, which is probably a dream of any hacker. And you, as what you have to do as a victim is just from the modem go to the wrong site. And we were looking at many modems and websites. 27 out of 30 contained such vulnerabilities, and it's something like drive-by download attacks, but targeted at modems, not computers. So when you just visit web resource, and if it is infected, they can send you a botnet and attack to control the modem and then control your computer. So cells are quite popular in the US, and Europe is a small base station that allows you to expand the macro networks to your garage or a house, and very convenient gadget. But then I believe Verizon had issues with this because it is a device of high-class, simple hardware, and when through the distributor network was sold, so individuals bought it, some femtocells was purchased by bad guys who tried just to use it to get admin access. And people are very creative. They found alternative applications to a very nice device. The mundane thing that they did to femtocell several years ago is getting access to the control interface. And the story says that some guys would put this in the backpack and just walking around a shopping mall and intercepted calls and SMS, so getting some sensitive information of mobile users. And our research shows that femtocell are different, and each vendor makes different architecture. The femtocells that we have been getting, well, some of them were protected, some were not, but we consider them as a potential penetration point, intrusion point, because this is a device that somehow through internet and tunnel gets into the operator network and then interacts with the nodes like that would be of interest to us. And so far, they broke in order to watch the traffic, catch the users, and this is kind of a fake base stations, a base station. If you use it, you can intercept the data or sniff some random people around you. And a popular attack to reduce the protocol version from 3G when a mobile client is trying to connect to a cell, so it will check the validity. And in 3G and 2G it's different, so you just suppress the proper operator signal and raise your femtocell through 2G, and the user will connect, and you can pass calls and SMS, and you control if you have this femtocell, and you can go to the mid-mobile booth. They will show you how your cell phone will be downgraded to 3G, then we kill 3G, and the cell phone will have to use the old good GSM connection that still covers 80% of the connection, and then the mobile station cannot check the authenticity, and you connect to the fake network, and and all your data will be intercepted and sniffed. And then you can always suppress the availability of a connection. And the users lose the operator, and it's especially sensitive if you provide vital information. Again, and this device can cover hundreds of square meters and just leave the people without any connection. So why this USB modem research was so interesting? Because the use of such modems as access point to internet by ordinary people is probably the simplest way. But you also, at the ATM, there is a little antenna, the same GPRS connection to the processing center. And many technologies work that way. Internet of Things use mobile technology as transport, and build logistic services to track the trucks, or track a gas pipeline with rows of gadgets and sensors. So that's clear. They mainly work via GSM connection. And in some cases, 3G protocol were necessary to arrange broadband access to those devices. But very often, the interaction to those SCADA systems would be done through short messages. And all the vulnerabilities are there and can leak the information and present the threat for industrial enterprise systems and critical infrastructures. And another interesting topic is about the SSL protocols level attacks. 2014 was rich in them. And last year we were talking about those vulnerabilities, and luckily the German researchers followed up, and then at the CC conference we kept talking about those vulnerabilities, and then the public got excited, and the Washington Post even wrote about the possibility of secret surveillance through this vulnerability. Unfortunately, as it often happens, so the journalist just touched the tip of the iceberg, because it's not such a big issue, but the higher issue is this vulnerability allows you to attack massive denial of service attack, like for instance a router that can service 2 million of users. Once it's attacked, once it denies the service in the vicinity of a business center, we shall all be left without connection. This is like a terrorist act. And then vulnerabilities of Ss7 networks is very serious, because it's a network that was developed somewhere back in the 80s, and it was supposed to be used for fixed lines, and then they added some protocols, and then later they made another upgrade so that this network could use IP networks for transport. And the trend is that one day it was a very secluded network. Only operators could connect to it, which were not very numerous. But lately, as a huge number of additional services and content providers emerged, and gates and things, and third parties get access to such networks, which enables them to do something that the operators have never done before, because it is proper service for them, service that provide for the hacker, it's a good way from any location to catch a call of a user. So you can register a virtual operator somewhere in Africa, and it will cost you a couple of $1,000, and then you will get access to all global operators. And then once you get this access, what can you do? This network has been around like a nervous system for the mobile word. So for the voice, you search for the user. Because that's the idea of the mobile phone. You can take your nomadic phone and go to Turkey for a holiday. And then, considering this network is international and there's roaming among all operators, so you become omnipresent. You get the license or you get access to this network and have a chance to intercept the calls of any user. And for that, you only need to know the victim's cell number. You can intercept SMS messages, send SMS messages on behalf of every user, which is actually compromising all the system of one-time passwords. So, for instance, when the password would be...
Это все использует такой альтернативный канал доставки информации, как СМС, который считается относительно защищенным.
And which is more or less protected, but not much. And by through the signal a chain, you can get information from anyone.
Интерес злоумышленников может быть огромный, и каким образом дальше будет развита атака, мы можем только фантазировать.
I'd like to ask one clarifying question. So, can you listen to a user living in another country? Will he get any bills for talking? No, because he will need to listen in to any user. So we deceive the billing system, and so we try to organize it in a way so that the billing system, once we connect, so then a conference call, like it will look like a conference call between three users, right? So two good guys and one bad guys, and so then he will listen to the talk between the two users, at the same time avoiding. So the numbers of two users will be original numbers, but when he gets so a ring on his cell phone, so he will, and so it's kind of a counterfeiting of the system, of the billing system, and so we'll provide any kind of information. We can provide false information or real information. And if we provide false information, then the user will not get any additional bills to pay. Another is technological processes. So we talk about any production processes, technological processes, transportation, so any industrial sites or manufacturing facilities. So what about their vulnerabilities? So vertically you can see the years, and judging by the years, you can see before 2010, so there was no research done on industry vulnerabilities. It was not done. And so the idea was that it's good that it works. And so then starting from 2011, we went into a serious study and learning more, and so the issues trying to address all the challenges, and this pie shows how long it took the vendors to fix the vulnerabilities. The best is the blue segment, so 3 months since the vendor is notified, so the vulnerability was closed in a matter of 3 months. But some other vulnerabilities so take forever to fix. And so this is an outstanding issue, very grave issue, and then it's not resolved anytime soon. This circle diagram, you can only see the visible part of vulnerabilities, but unfortunately, so these systems cannot put patches, introduce patches or updates right away. And because of the complexity of the industry in question, and so that it may so another technological window when the patch may be installed, it sometimes requires a year. So and then before this window of opportunity comes up, and then you can do that. And so this is because of the specifics of the technological process. So they cannot do it any faster or earlier. So this statistics is need to understand what it means, because the number of vulnerabilities in the last 3 years, it's not a trend. It's got Stuxnet when everyone learned about that. And so then everyone started to think it in terms of vulnerabilities, but others didn't look for it. And so there is no planned process where you study all companies for vulnerabilities and all software producers for vulnerabilities. They don't canvas them. And then, so then the vendors and the developers of industrial systems, corporate systems, so they do not check for vulnerabilities, and so it's kind of random looking for vulnerabilities, but it's not a sustainable effort. These two charts show how many gadgets are on the internet. So then, the best scenario, there should be none, but like with mobile operators, some mistakes of configuration, so the simplification of networks, etc. So sometimes it's only one controller, sometimes it's the data center, and and on the left is the numbers, and you can see that the United States is ahead of the world, but because they started to introduce so this system much earlier, that's why they've done much more. So that's why they have so many. And then on the right hand, so you can see this chart that shows the vulnerabilities. So in Germany, about 3% of gadgets on the internet are still vulnerable. So they're taking care of the vulnerability. But in China is not even on the left. So it's less than 1,300 gadgets are vulnerable on the internet. And half of them are vulnerable. So it means that there aren't many at the same time. So those gadgets are poorly configured, and so the implications are grave, and so they're an easy prey for hackers' attacks. And so Russia and Turkey is in violet. So they're pretty much the same. So the level number of gadgets on the internet and the level of security of those gadgets. So Russia equals Turkey. So there are quite a few gadgets, but they're not protected well, not secure. And then, so some countries, less than 10% of gadgets are vulnerable. Some countries, 20% of gadgets are vulnerable. And there are countries where China, everything is so bad, so every gadget is vulnerable. So for me, this is the saddest slide. And so when we did this research for the first time, so look, SOTP is on the internet, and so what about your secure networks? Think about it, and so think about it, because you are. So we're sending information to other countries, but nothing is changing.
Ну, на самом деле, что-то меняется, вендоры реагируют, но вот, как было показано вот здесь, вот реагируют они крайне медленно. Если говорить о реальных проблемах, которые может возникнуть централизованная, хорошо поставленная атака, when they mount an attack against us, что это будет, там, например, для той же окружающей среды в регионе, не Чернобыль получим, но последствия могут быть очень серьезными, а так просто через интернет, через обычный компьютер, никакой дополнительной техники, в общем,
equipment is required. Or, for example, the changing frogs on the railway track. Then financial sector, so then it allows the clients to talk to each other and so to remit money, money remittances, and so they are trying just to make sure that the service is convenient, and that's why they they lose certainly in security. And so the remote banking service, 78% of the banking systems have vulnerabilities. That's a very high level of risk. And very often, so the developers, they didn't think well when they developed those systems. So it means that if you take the box solution, so then the chances it will be more protected than if you develop it yourself. So that's why security-wise, it's better to trust the professionals, because the out-of-the-box solutions are much better. And in 40% cases, so the miscreant can get unauthorized access to the personal data and accounts of the bank accounts. And in 13% of cases, 13% of times, so the miscreant could handle the other people's accounts directly. And then, so then the same function. So mobile banking is very popular, and then each bank has its own mobile applications. So they tested the Android and iOS applications. We tested them, and so more than half of the applications have certain problems, so which can be hacked easily. So it has nothing to do with what the user wants to do. So Android is more vulnerable than iOS. So 70%, and the new Sberbank application, so they're checking so the unrooted cell phone. So because if it's not a rooted cell phone, so you cannot do the templates of payments. But not routed, and so then the program will may be doing it, and so you can pay, but only on the basis of certain templates that you created in a safe environment. So I think that there's a small antivirus a system that will prevent you from installing these applications on your cell phone. But you need to remember that now the mobile banking is not safe. Then ITMs visible from internet. Yeah, because ITMs, so they are equipped with Windows XP and so updated, but it's not very well supported. So Pakistan is Russia is second place because all the ITMs can be visible from the internet. So, for example, if an ITM machine is in the banner, so there is the name of the bank that owns this ITM machine. Then 87 ITMs could be seen online, but after the notification, only 33 are seen. So the banks are thinking about their security. So because ITM is money, and so they don't, and they take measures to make them safe. And but certainly life shows that they're not prepared for those attacks. But if you can get an access to the ITM machine from the internet, so what can be done with this ITM machine, you can easily see what can be done, because if you have an online access to the ITM, can give you any money. So you don't have to have a card, to have a bank account. So through the vulnerability, using the software in the ITM machine, so you can make the ITM give you money. Then media resources, so that are frequented, and so then the mass media website security. So 68% of all systems have vulnerabilities of high level of risk. 81% systems developed in PHP contain critical dangerous vulnerabilities, and 89% of vulnerabilities are caused by the mistakes in the program code, and only 11% of failures are related to the incorrect configuration of web applications. So then the site administrators work better than programmers, programming engineers. Almost 90% of vulnerabilities so could be fixed if you properly develop the code and before you put the site in such aggressive, dangerous environment as the internet is. Then the resources that everyone visits, it's a way just to do harm to the user, and it's a good chance. So 15–17% of the agencies they notified the last 3–4 years. So so then from 15 large news agency sites in Russia. So they provide their own code or what? So they made public, and so you can see some presentations. You can see the news about new antivirus vendors, and all the way up to 1 million unique visitors that visit the resource, and people were attacked. Those who visited, and so the banking Trojan virus was inserted, and then the trends completing our research. By the way, so we have a good magazine, Cost of Research. So this research is all the research is represented in a more comprehensive and detailed manner. And then from the viewpoint of almost all corporate customers and banks, telcos, industry, so it's very fashionable to protect themselves from attacks, from hacking attacks. So let's find some smart machines that would identify 0 days and find hackers, and so then this trend has been around in the world for some time, but it's coming to Russia. So let's find 0-day guys, etc. So then, and there are so producers and consultants who have these competencies, but at the same time, business in the last 2 years. So there's really a request for real protection, real security, because usually it was a demand for security on paper security. So they just give you paper and then everything is fine. They give you a certificate, but this security on paper, they're not happy with it anymore. So, and against the background of more attacks and more hacking attempts, and so that's why they don't want just security on paper, but real security. They want to develop the system that will be functional, efficient, and really protect the company. It's that trend. So when you step with your naked foot on a sword, so that's on one hand, so they want the 0-day sophisticated systems, but on the other hand, so they do not even take the most simple precautions. So like keeping your PIN code, or just being careful when you cash in your credit card, etc. And people don't pay attention to that. And then the most recent trend is. I noticed that in recent years, so the task was to protect. It's secondary in importance, because objectively it's impossible just to be protected 100%. So we not protect ourselves, but at least to identify the bad guy as soon as possible and to stop him from doing more harm. That's the idea. And because not even to protect, there is no such thing as 100% in real time. And for example, some measures real-time attack identification, so tracing, etc. But so at least if you, for example, you find out who did it half a year after it's been hacked, it's already good. And so that's a new trend. That's when they're trying just to get to those bad guys. Then the underground trend. So they're watching the industry very closely, and you can see that. And the underground is watching the technologies. While some time ago, so we had the same software that encrypts computers and demands money. Now they're using good crypto-resistant algorithms. So then encryption with an open key, and actually then the industry was prompting the attackers what not to do, so what mistakes not to make, and how to increase the damage for the industry. So they were just supplying information to the bad guys. So then the new vendors' publications started to appear because the vendors want to know to show their confidence and their competence, their knowledge. And one of the trends was good cryptography. The second trend is that the vendors, so they say, so why do we have to pay if it's very easy to decrypt? The second trend, so we can't, when they faced good cryptography, the vendors saying, oh, I restored the key because it was generated on a hacked machine, then it was sent by mail, etc. So the vendors showed that the bad guy, so you can do more, you can work more efficiency, and then they will not catch up with you, so, and people will not be able to restore their data. So then it goes to the server, so then open key encrypts, and the closed key does not get into the system which has been hacked, or the machine that has been hacked, and even having special equipment, you cannot restore the key that was used for the encryption and restore the data. All I have to do is two ways. The first way is to pay and also take it from the backups if there is a backup. But restoring from backup takes several days, and that's why offices where thousands of people work, and so they will be just doing nothing, eating bananas and apples, while the information is restored. Some companies went bankrupt because of, for example, the reporting, accounting was hacked and never returned. That's why they extort money. They extort money from the companies, and then there are some cases when the law enforcement of certain states, so they do their own investigation, that's trying to identify who was that, so then they find a vendor. A vendor starts writing on the blog, so it's good that it was bad guy Petya or Peter, just from that country. And then Petya immediately packs his suitcase and moves to another continent, so further away, and it's impossible to get him. And then I would still warn the vendors who really just try to understand understand the specifics of the industry before just you start to PR yourselves. So think, so how much effort and money just other so special agencies spent and took in order to trace them down, so the bad guys, and improve the system in general. Then another, then using some anonymous payments, bitcoins, so used to be to somehow pay with money, so because now they started to watch the money, the tracing the money, and some people and went to the internet, which is anonymous, so which is not indexed by the search engines, and it's much more difficult to find them. And I think that many incident investigations should be done within the framework of NDA and provide information in the amounts and entirety that would talk about a certain problem, so that the owners of the software should know what's going on, but not to give additional chances to the bad guys to increase the efficiency of their attacks. So geopolitics is something that was played out always, and so if the Western companies they attack, so then in the zone root domain or SU zone organizations could come to terms. And if they attack Russian companies, it's quite similar, but sometimes it's war comp domains are the source domains. And so this confusion and slow communication between the countries is playing into the hands of the attackers. And then another trend. So then APT experience, anti-APT experience, so mass attacks So then the Trojan viruses distribution, then attacks aimed at specific infrastructure or regions or industries. Then very often, so a few years ago, so from the infected website, they would infect banking Trojans, and by mail they would attack specific infrastructures. Now the trend is mixed because they borrowed the experience of more qualified and better prepared partners. And we regularly see very smart attacks that look like they're mass attacks. So guy just visits the site, and so then they transfer him to the infected software. But we've seen attacks where in the tuning of the structures of the attackers, so they had the addresses, so government addresses, banking addresses, and infected software was delivered only if the people just would visit the site from other organizations, and for example, if it's coming from IP addresses, so that belongs to the government of another state, so then the malware is distributed. But if you come from wrong parameters, then the site behaves decently and does not distribute the malware. This is how it goes. And so our time is up. And if you have any questions, please, you're welcome to, because in 4 minutes there will be another presentation. If there are any further questions, we can take them later. I'd like to thank all our colleagues from our research center that participated in this test and helped with the paperwork and analyzed it all. Thank you all.